drinking and like whatever I could do to get noticed. And but also I had a regular comics out that every month when I was in America, and I got there's a writer called Jeff. I'm sorry if this is going on too long. There's a writer called Jeff Parker who wrote a book called Thunderbolts, and he liked my work, and he said, if you want, I could send your stuff. I went to an American convention. I started going to American conventions. That was a big thing. But he said, if you want, I'll send your stuff to Marvel. And I went, no, that'd be terribly rude of me. I got all awkward and Irish about it. He was like, no, it's fine. I'll do it. I was like, no, I couldn't ask you to do that. He's like, you didn't ask me. I asked you. So I just shut up and I let him do it, and that's how I got my first filling gig at Marvel. So it was like portfolios, small press to UK material to smaller American book, and then American book to Marvel. I probably should have just said that. Sorry.
And you have a very distinct style, because when somebody sees your work, they know it's
Thanks.
yours, and it's not anybody else. How did you get to that style? You know, because it's realistic, not too realistic, detailed, and some might say kind of dark, like with lots of shadows and light and striking.
As you can tell, I'm a very deep and interesting person, and it just comes across in my work. It's hard to answer that because it's really hard to know what other people see in your work. I always go for atmosphere. There's a lot of very technically proficient artists, but their work just kind of goes on the page. It feels dead. And while when I was starting, I wasn't very good, but I figured if I could get a lot of mood and atmosphere, that would be something that I would be good at. And I did, and then ultimately I got better at drawing. But a lot of it's my influences. Which are, I'd say it was like Jim Lee, Andy Kubert, Mark Bagley, all the big superhero stuff of the 90s. That's what I loved. But Batman Year One, David Mazzucchelli, that I think just switched a light on for me, and it opened me up to all these other artists like J.P. Leon, Goran Parlov, Tommy Lee Edwards, Sean Murphy. Sean later. I was older when I knew Sean's stuff, but I really like I like work that feels distinct. Like if you pick up a book and it looks like somebody else, I'm not that interested. I like a book like when you read Hawkeye, that book looks like Hawkeye, and that always really impressed me. So I always try and do that. But a lot of it's my taste. Like I like miserable crime dramas, miserable relationship dramas, like really miserable stuff. But I also like high sci-fi action. So I straddle this line of liking very moody atmospheric work and liking very stylized and bold storytelling.
And what is your process when you're working? And I'm not talking about writing or just in general. Like, how do you go into a project? What do you do?
And everyone's different. Batman, I just panicked. I was like, oh no.
That was stage one.
It was the real first stage fright I had, and I'd been doing it for years by then. But like all of my favorite artists had drawn Batman, and like, who the hell am I? So I had to get over that. Working with Warren and Moon Knight, that was very intimidating too. I think it's good to have a little bit of fear. Like if you know exactly what you're going to do, then the work might just be boring. But if you're a little scared, it kind of panic sweat could be good to kind of force you to do something interesting. But first, you read the script, and I try and think of some visual things that I want to kind of lean on. Like I think with Deadpool, I didn't like how everyone drew him really muscly, because to me he's a mercenary, so he wouldn't be like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like bumping into walls. I felt he should be more stealthy. So that was where I started with that. Moon Knight was a whole load of different visual ideas. Thunderbolts, I was trying to do BPRD in a Marvel universe. You name it. So I try to find my own way in. Moon Knight, I was trying to do Daredevil because I'm a big Daredevil fan. But that can be really scary. So sometimes it's better to trick yourself into thinking you're doing something else. So Moon Knight for me was a David Fincher movie meets Daredevil, and that's how I started. It became something else, but you need something to concentrate on at first. Yes.
And going, deeper into the details, when you have, you got the script, you read it. Now, how do you break it down? Do you do like every page separately? Just read the script again, page by page, break it down. Do you have like the whole?
I read the whole script all in one sitting, and then I like to think about it for a while, and then I won't remember specifically. I like to let it sink in my brain a little. Now you don't always have that luxury. Sometimes you're like, okay, right, you've got to start. But I like to think about it. I like to think of maybe there's 2 or 3 moments that there's like a strong visual that I can hook things onto. But then I'll read it again, and I have on an iPad this app where you can highlight things and mark numbers. So I'll go through the script and I'll mark how many panels there are on a page, because I might read, panel 1, Tel Aviv. And I'm like, oh cool, I could draw a really cool cityscape and all the buildings and make that a really, really cool strategy page. And then you read down, you realize there's 5 panels. You're like, oh, okay, I can't do that. So I don't trick myself into getting too excited about a specific moment. I'll mark how many panels there are. I'll read the whole script again, and I'll underline important details like, if it's New York, I don't know, like the subway. So write down the subway because I'll need to look that up. Important, so stuff for reference. Then I'll take my sketchbook and I draw like little boxes. It's like 5 by 7 centimeters, which roughly use the same page, like proportion as a comic book page. And I'll pencil out the rough storytelling and where all speech balloons are. Then I kind of ink that then. Where my second pass I might find stuff that's like a different angle, or I basically do a mini comic in my sketchbook. Then I scan that, I blow that up in Photoshop, I turn off the lights, and I put the page on the computer screen, and I trace my layout onto the panel, onto the artboard, and then I start penciling from there. But I do try and think. I know with every page there should be like a focus moment. Like if it's someone who drops, if someone says like I'm pregnant, and you need a reaction shot, then I know that needs to be the most important panel on the page. It doesn't need to be the biggest one, but I need to know the moments that I need to kind of link, or I know needs more importance, or I need to end on, or the composition should point there. So that's something I'm always thinking about whenever I'm going page by page, and also work out the flow and that's the hardest bit. Well, no, it's not the hardest. Well, it is. Penciling is the annoying bit. But doing the layouts bit is where, like, if someone said, "Hey, Dick, how are you doing?" I'll be like, "Leave me alone," and I get really into it and frustrated. But it's also the best bit because that's where you're really actually telling the story.
And the pages that you like more, do you wait for them until the end, or is there any specific order, or do you just go?
Does anybody do that, or does anybody try? No.
They do it first. Sometimes, I really like the splash page.
Don't do that. Like in my experience, I know some artists they just do random pages, but for me, don't, because you find that what you're excited about drawing, you'll draw first. That's great. And the pages you're not excited about drawing, you just push them back, push them back, push them back, and you don't have that luxury to be so placated about it. You need to be getting a page done a day. So I work pretty much, numerically, chronologically. That's much better. I'm a professional writer. I couldn't so because if you have to do this first scene, then you draw the first scene and it's done. If you're picking the pages you like, then you've lost all interest because you've done the fun stuff and none of the, lots of important stuff. I tend to pick scenes sometimes, so maybe I won't do page 1, 2, and 3. I might do page 3, 4, and 5, but again, it has to be in a scene. But I force myself to work chronologically because that way I can be more dedicated, regimented, and organized. And the same way with drawing a page, I don't draw ink the thing I like the most because it's the boring. Like drawing this room would be a pain in the arse. So I'm not gonna, it's the most interesting object here. I don't know. Your face, of course. That's not what I'm going to do first. I'm probably going to do all the boring stuff of all the bits of the chairs and working on the perspective. That's the boring part, but you need to get that out of the way. So I guess it's an element of delayed gratification.
And when it comes to covers, because you've been doing a crap load of covers lately, what do you think?
Or a load of crap covers, depending on how you
so other than, of course, it being, it needs to catch your eye. Is there anything else that goes into the process in your thoughts?
Well, covers are different because it's illustration. The comics are illustration, but they're more storytelling. And covers need to do different things. They do need to tell a story, but not in the way in which it's like moment by moment by moment. You need to straight away tell you what the story is. It needs to grab your eye, and for me, depending on, like, you do things like variant covers, like we draw Wolverine one day and Captain America the other day, they're different. But if I'm doing the covers to a series, I want to try and make it look like every issue is identifiable. So if you go into the store and Dead Man Logan is there, even though you haven't seen the issue yet, you recognize that title. I like to give a book an identity. So if it's Punisher, if it's Moon Knight, whatever it is, you'll recognize the book, but when you see it, you recognize it's a different issue. Well, covers, if you can tell a story and like grab somebody visually, so I try to do a lot of things like if it's Winter Soldier, that star on his arm. If it's Punisher, skull. If it's like name a character or whatever their icon is, I try and work that into the composition, because you're telling a story in a single image is much different to telling a story over 20 pages, and so a cover should do things that storytelling pages should not.
And when you do the variants, which is just like a character,
Yeah.
do you keep like a library of those so you'll know that you're not recycling the same poses? Because I've seen a lot of people, artists, who are basically drawing the same pose over and over and over again.
This happened to me recently. I just did a cover for a friend of mine, and I put it online, and everyone was like, "This is so cool." I'm like, "Oh, thanks." And everyone was like, "This is a really interesting cover. I really like the composition." I'm like, "Oh, thanks." And I did something in January which hasn't been announced yet. I'm really happy with it, and I did it ages ago. Nobody's seen it, and I was looking at it the other day. I was like, "Ah." It's not the same, but it's similar. There's some compositional elements that are quite similar. Because a friend of mine said, because who did see it, he's like, "Oh, are those books connected?" No. So, and I did another cover recently. What was it? I can't remember, but I realized it was quite similar to a different cover I'd done recently. And so I'm starting to worry that I'm repeating myself a little.
So do you go back and looking at other covers just in case every time?
Well, no, because I mean, I'm always looking forward. Really, I don't think about my own work that much. Generally, you don't. You think about it when you're doing it, but you don't think about like, what is my catalog? Because you're just trying to get stuff done. But I think because there's definitely things I think make stronger images, so I lean towards those things. So profiles, headshots, profiles, full figure, circles, diagonals, like they're all very good visual graphic design tools, and bolder compositions. But like, I've done so many covers now. I'm just worried. I want to make sure that I'm not just like relying on a visual shorthand, which can happen. But no, I don't look over all the stuff. But stuff comes to you, like you get a gut feeling sometimes. I did a Banshee cover, which was just pure fan fiction for me because he's Irish. I've always wanted to draw Banshee, and I did 3 different designs, and the most boring one, I'm like, that's the one they're going to pick, and it is the one they picked, and it's just like,
Oh, that's the X-Men?
yeah, it's the X-Men one, but like that is the most standard, boring superhero. Like everybody has drawn that, but I tried to make it more interesting by using his cape to change the composition, and I drew like these cliffs that are in my home county in the background, and I drew the hell out of them. Like I really like lots of texture, and I colored it too. And so for me, even though it's a very generic pose, I made it more interesting by paying attention to everything else. So sometimes you find things that you're like, you know, I know I'm doing this, but I'm going to work on this instead to make it. I don't know if I answered you.
Sure. You worked with a bunch of people, a lot of people, and what do you prefer? Do you prefer when someone, because, let me rephrase it, you most of the time, you either write or you draw. There isn't a lot that you wrote and drew. I think it was the Nick Fury.
Yeah, that's the only, well I did a Venom Punisher short story, but those
Right.
those are the only things I've written.
Is that because you just don't want to do that? You prefer to write for other people or draw for other people?
I think it's just happenstance. I wanted to write the Savage Town, but I didn't want to draw it because I wanted to give somebody from Ireland to step up, but I also know I make my living from drawing Marvel or drawing Injection. I couldn't just take a year off and draw this graphic novel, so there's that. So I ended up just writing that, not drawing it. And then the Deadpool vs. Old Man Logan, they asked if I would write and draw it, but I said I couldn't draw it because I was working on Injection. But I said, hey, you know, you can always write it. You're willing to let me write it anyway, so why not let me write it? So they worked out that way. It's generally time. Also, if I draw and write something like significant, I'd probably want to own it rather than do it for Marvel. But then again, there's lots of Marvel stuff I'd like to. There's not a lot of stuff I'd like to write and draw, but there are some things I'd really like to write, and there's some things I'd like to draw. And I'm at a stage now where I've kind of worked with most of my favorite guys, so I'm not dying to work with like X, Y, and Z, or whoever the new hot writer is. You know, good for them, but I think I kind of want to concentrate on myself a bit more. You know.
And if you do collaborate with someone, what are you looking for in your collaborators? Is it just, people that you know and you like their work, or is
just blind admiration for me. That would be nice. I think like a strong visual sense. But if it's an artist, actually it's both. If it's a writer, you want someone who's a strong visual sense, because there's too many writers who want to be doing prose, or they want to be doing film, or they want to, and they don't have a visual sense. Comics, although it's literary, is a visual medium. So, filmmakers, proper filmmakers, have a good visual eye. They don't need to be able to draw, but they need to have a visual eye. And I think you need the same in comics, because what you write goes down to the artist, and you're giving them the room to come up with something visual. And it might be different from what you thought, but as long as it's interesting, great. So like Mike Henderson was like that on Deadpool vs. Logan, and anyone I'd like to work with will do something interesting, and vice versa. If I get a script that's really like the writer is thinking about the visuals, it gives me the room to do the same.
You've worked, let's say, with Warren Ellis on both creator-owned and for the one for Marvel.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Like
There was no difference.
No difference.
We were doing Injection, so we were doing Moon Knight.
I'm talking general because that was a good example because working.
Well, look, the only difference really, to be honest, was just like getting it made, because Marvel have like editors and they have the whole system. In Injection, it was like me, because Warren did the script, but then it was me to try and figure out the schedule and what I could do and what amount of time and when the colors could do it. So doing creator-owned stuff, there's a whole lot of work, like about getting the book made. That has nothing to do with actually making the book. when you do work for hire, they take care of a lot of that, and you don't realize that until you have to do it yourself, you know. But as regards the creative process, it's the same. Warren wrote the script. Warren was very adamant with Marvel that I got to do what I wanted, and I tried to use that space to do something interesting. And after I did Moon Knight, I think Marvel asked if I wanted to stay on Moon Knight after Warren left. But for me, having that control over everything, over the colours and the graphic design, like the cover design and the title design, I felt I'd have less opportunity to do that. And having the taste of power, I crave more. So I went. Warren asked if I wanted to do a book with him. He'd make one for me, basically, an image. So full creative control. I'd be able to make a living. Like, you know, I'd be okay working with Warren. It was just the perfect thing.
And with Savage Town being a creator owned, but on the writing side,
Yeah.
do you feel that it was basically the same experience, or is there a different experience?
Well, there was more of the. Well, it was interesting to have an idea and take it all the way through to the end, be it from the dialogue to the location, to the themes, to the characters, to the covers, to the cover, to how it's lettered. You know, like I had way more. It was my idea, and through working with all these great people, it got made. That was satisfying, especially having done image work. The sense of satisfaction of making something out of nothing and it then existing was hugely satisfying. I wanted to do it again, but I couldn't draw it at the time. So Savage Chef was similar, yeah. I mean, it was different because Phil hadn't done that much work before. He'd done a little bit of stuff, so there was, you know, some difficulties. It was my first proper written thing, so that was more of a personal challenge. I wanted to write something, but I didn't just tell Phil, do whatever you want. I properly wrote a script. He would hand in pages, and that would give me. There were so many cool characters in the background. I'd be like, oh, I want to know more about this guy. So I was reacting to his drawing, and I went back into the writing. So it was really cool, back and forth, which I don't have in Warren because he just writes the scripts and I draw them, and then they're done.
When you write a script, how detailed do you go? Do you give it like panel one, so and so, and this happens from this angle, and you see this guy in the background, or is it basically just, you know, page one, blah 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 blah, blah, everything that happens?
It's well, like I as an artist, the last thing I'd want to do is be art directed in the script, because I hate that. And like, don't tell me what to do. I know what I'm doing. You know, I get very annoyed. Not that it happens a lot, but it has happened. You know, like if you want to do it, you draw it. But Warren, no. But I'm also used to working with Warren. Like, me and Warren, when we first started working on Moon Knight, one of the things he said to me was, I'm going to have some ideas, and when I do, I'd like you to do them as close as you can, and otherwise, just do whatever you want. Which is fine, because it works really well, because there's enough room. With his ideas, he has something specific in mind. I'll do that, but it's not directing every little bit and every tiny thing. So there's enough freedom to do something interesting. And then if I want to try something different, I have the same leeway. That's working with. What was that your question? Sorry.
That when you write it to Phil, for instance.
Oh, sorry, when I'm writing for somebody else. Yeah, no, that's a great question. Well, I try to study the artist's work so that I have a feeling I know what their strengths are. I try to write towards those strengths. So with Deadpool vs. Old Man Logan, I knew Mike Henderson was drawing a crime book with a lot of talking people, a lot of people sitting in rooms and like a lot of action.
So you just made him draw an airplane falling on someone.
Well, yeah, I said, well, I said, well, what do you want to draw? Look, is there anything you want to draw? And he said, I'm sick of drawing people in rooms. I want to just go crazy. So I'm like, okay. So that informed what the whole story was. Not the story itself, but like what was going to happen. Because I'm like, I need to keep Mike entertained. So I just built it, try to make it crazier and crazier. It's different. Phil's different. He's way more of a low-key storyteller. So I just kept it about the pacing. And with what's that word? PJ Holden, kind of the same. I don't get too specific, but I give people enough room. Like I kind of base my scripts on Warren, to be honest, because he'd be specific when he wants to be, but other times he would just be. Everyone thinks that Warren writes these crazy long scripts, but sometimes it's just like Maria gives him a look. But like I know exactly what he means when I draw that look. So I'm kind of the same. Like it would be, Wolverine stabs the hell out of the guy, and he gets exactly what I mean and like gives him that room to do it.
The Irish comic book scene is getting bigger and bigger these days. There counted earlier about 10, 11 Irish artists now.
Yeah.
Compared to we were looking earlier in the 80s, 90s.
Yeah, it's like two or three. Yeah.
Why is that?
I think it's because, not to blow my own trumpet or anything, because I don't think it's me, but I think me and Will and Mooney, Will Sliney, Stephen Mooney and Stephen Thompson and Nick Roach, excuse me, we're all doing something, like it was Mooney and Thompson and Roach first of our group, and then me and Will kind of came in afterwards, and we kind of leapfrogged over them a little, because like we got into Marvel and stuff before that, but I think if there's somebody from your community doing something which you deem as impressive or spectacular, it makes, not that it makes it less spectacular, but it makes it feel more tangible. So I assume there's like an actor from your hometown, or there's novelists from Tel Aviv or something. It's if you can. It's like it lowers the goalposts a little, because they're like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. I think there's a little bit of that, and also all of us are pretty encouraging too. So anybody who ever showed us stuff, we'd always be like, oh yeah, I'll go for it. Also, I think the Irish are a little bit like, well, you're recording this, but whatever. The Irish are a little like rats. Like, if one gets onto the ship, we're like all of a sudden it's infested. But no, we all do like to help each other out and step each other up. So I think it's a mix of people who thought that they couldn't do it, realised that maybe they could do it, and then also everybody encouraging everybody else and bringing them up.
You were telling me that you and Will, you went to the States, to New York, and you lived there for a while, trying to get your stuff.
Yeah.
And noticed. Did the rest of the Irish artists do the same thing?
No.
So it's not like everybody putting themselves out there and pushing their stuff.
Like we're in Ireland. I know what it's like here, but in Ireland we're really bad for that. There's a thing. It's kind of call it like the Bono syndrome, where if somebody does well, someone locally does well, everyone in Ireland's like, hey, like good on you. They go like they love an underdog, So when Colin Farrell first started like acting in Hollywood films, everyone's like, good on you, Colin. And then once he starts like having sex with supermodels, everyone's like, get out of here, so you're allowed so there's a certain amount of success, but if you're here, Irish people go like, fuck. So there's, as a result, I think we tend to be very down on ourselves. Like the story about how I met Jeff, when he gave me an opportunity, I nearly talked my way out of it. We definitely have a self-deprecating nature, and it's kind of culturally, it doesn't look good to be full of yourself, So I balance that out by being very pretentious, but also making fun of myself a lot too. So balances it out. But me and Will, I think we just pushed ourselves harder than the other guys did. They went to conventions like we did, but I think me and Will were, I don't want to say hungrier, but we also weren't as good as Thompson and Mooney were, just better artists. But I think we were better at pushing our work than they were. Like Thompson just doesn't push himself. Mooney has a hard time with it. But me and Will were okay to go like, this is my stuff, go to conventions, how's it going? We were on the social and the I guess marketing part of it. Me and Will kind of push ourselves further. And then when we got attention, it worked. Like I said, we try and get it to friends and support them.
And do you feel that now there are a lot more like
waving my hands a lot.
Work with your hands. It's
Yeah.
fine. Do you feel that today, for instance, there are more aspiring artists in Ireland that come to you than, let's say, when you were showing your portfolio around to people?
Oh, they just weren't there when I was a kid. They weren't there. The only Irish people who did comics had by then left comics, like Dermot Power and Killian Plunkett were like probably the biggest examples. They'd already left. I thought I was the only Irish guy doing comics for ages, until I met Will. I was like, ah. And then I found out about Mooney and Thompson. I was like, so I wasn't special anymore. But there weren't really the examples when I was a kid. So I mean, it's a totally different kind of world now. But I mean, I don't know. I definitely try and be supportive of other people, but I kind of have to be aware that I can't be doing that all the time. I have to, I've done a couple of internships, and both of those people have gone on to work in comics, El Power and Owen Marin, and that's great. And I'm really glad that I could do something to help like younger people get into the industry. But at the same time, I can't be doing that all the time because I have deadlines too. I look after this guy.
When you're in a convention and people come over, do you see more Irish people coming over with their portfolios? Or is it still
Yeah,
like
I kind of end up
the same 3-4 guys?
There's a really good, I don't know what it's like here, but there's a really good like comic scene in Dublin. So, you know, if there's a signing and we all go out afterwards, like you meet them in the pub. So somebody mightn't show me stuff straight away, but they might like go, oh hey, I'll just have a chat with them, like socially. And then over time you get to know them, and then they're like, oh, do you want me to look at your stuff? So it's a little bit friendlier in Ireland than it is in any other scene. I think they're a bit more cutthroat. I don't know what like you guys are like here, but so there's a heavy social aspect to it. I don't get. I'm also. There's not a lot of Irish conventions for it to happen. Also, I guess it doesn't happen that much actually anymore. Also, I have a bit of a reputation for being a bit like blunt. But I don't think that stops anybody. Like,
you want to hear stuff about your work, somebody to be blunt, to get better.
Yeah, like there's a couple of people I've seen over the years where like they've never come to me about like their own work. Not that they have to, not like I'm the bloody priest of Ireland or whatever. But and you tell them stuff and they don't listen, and then you're like, well, you're wasting your time and my time, so why bother? So I kind of maybe don't make an effort to do it anymore because also, the current generation are completely bloody spoiled. Because like I said, I had to go to other countries to get feedback, and now in Dublin you can get it any day, so, F them.
What books are you reading these days? What comic books are you following, if any, or artists?
Well, I always get this question because I never remember. I'm reading Daredevil because I always read Daredevil. I'm reading X-Force, so like Ed Brisson and Dylan Burnett. I'm reading, what else in my bag? I just bought Little Girls, the image graphic novel. I haven't read it yet though. Reading Criminal. I love Criminal. I'm reading Deadly Class, Rumble. Well, I can't think of it. Southern Bastards, but that's been out for a while. A lot of crime stuff. Still a bit of superhero stuff. I do read a lot of stuff. I think that's the problem. I'm trying to remember now. I do read a lot of stuff, but I just can't think of it. And artists, writers. I mean, I'll read anything Warren does. Thankfully, with the scripts, I don't have to pay for those because I just said it for free. Warren, Ed Brisson, I'm a big fan of. I think he's doing some really cool stuff. Donny Cates' stuff is great fun as well. That's what I really like these days. I mean, Brubaker, Aaron, Ennis, all those guys. Like Ennis, Gareth Ennis for me is, like what he's done is incredible. And artists, who am I really like at the moment? Well, I'm always trying to look at like guys coming up. So I won't mention bigger guys. Do you know? I did Josh Hickson. He did Shanghai Red. Okay. I know him. I just can't think of his name right now. Who else is really good? Yeah, Dylan Burnett, Owen. Sorry, man, I'm drawing a blank. I'm trying to remember what I'm even reading right
Oh,
now.
but the guy did the Vikings story.
Oh, Eric Swatsky. Okay.
No.
Okay, well he's really good.
Italian.
Oh, Simone Darmini.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, we were talking before. Yeah, Simone Darmini. Yeah, I really like his stuff. He's savage. As an artist, I'm fans of artists, and it's cool as a writer, like being somebody who writes now. I like the idea of like writing for someone who I'm a fan of someday. You know. Well, I've already done that. I was a fan of Mike Henderson's. I was a fan of Phil Barrett's. I was such a fan of Phil Barrett's. I wanted to buy a graphic novel he drew. He just didn't draw it, so I wrote one for him to draw so I could have it.
That basically concludes our part here.
All right, I'm out of here.
So, if there are any questions,
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey.
I wanted to ask about splash pages.
Sure.
When you get to a splash page on a script,
Yeah.
do you feel more freedom? Because you know, the way I see it, when I get the splash page, this is where the art shines for me.
Are you drawing or?
No.
Okay.
God, no.
God no. Yeah, but it's really well. Writing wise, it's pacing. So, you know, if you're writing a comic, it's like 20 pages. You've so much story, and you've got to pace what the moment's like. Do you want to build up to something? Do you want to slow it down? So, like, I've done action scenes in comics that are like big and bombastic, and I've done action scene like 2 or 3 panels, like bang, bang, bang. Whereas when I did Northlanders, I did an action scene that was 6 panels, which is a lot more like cutting. So it depends how you want to do it. A splash page it could be a person's face going like, "I'm going to die." It could be, you know, an asteroid hitting a city. It depends. Sometimes it's like, "Oh yeah," as from an artist's point of view. Sometimes it's like, "Oh no," because you need to draw it so much. But it is if it's an exciting moment in the story. It depends. Sometimes it's a really simple drawing, you know. But also, you know, I try not to think about splash pages unless they're really necessary. It's like anything in comics. There's different things you can do, but if you do the one thing all the time, it loses all impact. Excuse me. You can fit a lot of stuff in a comic book page, so if you're going to have a splash page, it really needs to be worth it, you know. I don't know if that answers your question. Yes. Thank you.
So, when you have you ever wrote an event, a big event that?
No. No, I've never. Sorry.
Did you ever wanted the one like?
You mean like War of the Realms or those
Yes,
big?
yes.
No. I've been drawing for years and years and years. That's what I've really done. So writing is a new thing. So I like the idea of doing something big, but they can be very complicated because, you know, if you want to kill Thor, you can't kill Thor because he has a book, you know?
Yeah. Or if you want to kill someone like I don't know, Robin or
Yeah.
Batman, it will be.
Yeah, DC are going to say, no thank you.
Yeah.
We have a very
Yeah,
successful
that's-
book. So
Yeah,
those
unless
things,
this character is not important, you can't kill anyone.
well, not that you have to kill people, you know, I'm not like,
Yeah.
I'm not murdering, I'm not so murderous, but
Yeah, I mean in the comics.
of course. Oh, no. well, just to cover my bases. Those things can be very complicated. At the moment, no, because I feel like I'm trying to get better at writing, but I think maybe someday. As an artist, I think that would be something that would be really cool, but those things, they're very, well, you know, they sell better, so that's good, because you make more money, but they're also, more fans look at that stuff, and the more fans that read it, the more likely they're going to be jerks.
Yeah.
So, it's, you know, it's
Yeah,
there's,
like if there are a lot of fans or characters like I don't know, Superman,
Yeah.
when you kill him, a lot of people will get
well,
angry.
not even that, they may not like how you draw, they're like, I don't like how you draw Superman. You know, some
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
but other people might go, I love how you draw Superman. So it really, it depends. Everyone's, you might love something and the next person hates it. I don't know why you
Yeah.
hate it. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, like maybe because you killed the character or something.
Maybe.
Um,
You.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have like a number one tip you would give to an aspiring artist?
Finish something. Just finish it. Are you
Actually,
working?
I need a tip I need.
Yeah, well,
Um,
because so can I ask? Have you drawn much comics?
Not much. I've drawn like very small works, like only a few pages.
That's okay, but did it finish? Was it a 3-page story? Was it a 5-page story, or was it something you haven't finished?
It's a 5-page story, but like with an ending that should be going on in another story. Like
Okay. Well, even at that, that's good because what happens is, so the first mistake everybody makes is, I want to do a 200-page graphic novel. Like, never gonna happen, because one, you're not good enough to do it. Two, you don't have the stamina because anybody can draw a comic book page, but to draw one day and another one the next day and the next day, it's very tough. Two, it becomes so stressful that you ultimately end up quitting. So the thing is, it's like if you wanted to be an athlete, you wanted to be a runner, you don't just run a marathon straight away. You start small and you build and you build and you build. So it's good to do a 5-page story, do another 5-page story, do a 10-page story, and by the time you've done your 10-page story, you look at the first 5-page story and you realize why it's awful. And it's good because you have enough distance between to be more honest with yourself and go, that's not great. Like, I won't say what book it is, but I looked at a book of mine recently that I remember quite fondly, and I looked at it, I was like, that's not as good as other was. But that's good because you will always be terrible. But
No, it's okay.
okay. But it's good because you're never going to be as good as you want to be. And letting go after 5 pages is a good way to train yourself to just go, because sometimes it's fine. Everything can't be 100%, and it just won't be. Even if you gave it 100%, it still won't be 100%. The best thing you can ask for, I think, is if you aim for 100 and you get to 70, that's fine. If you're at like 50%, that's not good enough. You need to give it more. But you need to be able to let go and finish something and helps you be more honestly critical about your own work, which is what makes you better. So then the 20-page story that you do next is going to be like twice as good as what you just did. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So finishing something and just doing it. Sometimes a lot of people they say they want to do comics, but they don't actually do it, which is stupid because I can't. If I'm an editor, I can't hire you if I don't see what you can do, and if you don't give me like the work that I can judge, then I can never make that assumption. So if you want to write comics but you haven't written any comics, then how are you gonna? It doesn't make any sense, So I would do that, and I would train yourself to be doing longer work, but like nothing longer than 20 pages or 20-page. What would you like to do? If don't mind me asking.
Well, I have my own story
Yeah.
that I thought of with a friend of mine, and we have a lot of characters, but there's one story I really want to make, but I feel like it's going to be too long. So maybe I should
Okay,
start.
don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. It's the best advice I can give you. Sorry to sound so.
I want to like.
Yeah. No, it's because I think that the problem with that is because it's so personal and it's so long. It's going to get to a stage where you'll get upset, you'll get frustrated, and you'll quit. And there's nothing making you do that because it's just you. But if you do something with somebody else, they're involved, so you need to do it for them. And also, smaller work. The more mistakes you make now, the better that thing you will. But whatever that project is, just stick a pin in it, put it away, and maybe do work that you're less invested in because it'll force you to, like, if you really care about the story and there's something not good about it, you're going to get very upset. So if you do something where you're maybe not as personally invested, you can take chances more, and you can experiment more, and you can learn more. So by the time you do that story, you will feel a lot more. You'll be a lot more proficient and talented.
I just want to interject here and ask a lot of people when they do like sample pages
Yeah.
or small projects for themselves, they keep working on it more and more and more because it's
Yeah.
never good enough. At what point should someone say to himself, "This is it. I'm going to show it to people." If it might not be good, it might be amazing, but
Yeah.
because it can always get better and better and better. You can always add another detail in the
Yeah,
back.
it's a tough one to know for sure. I mean, I think I think you got to figure that out for yourself. Gets a bit of a cop out answer, but like if you can't draw it in a day, then it's not. It's if you hand up a sample script, the problem is editors know that people spend weeks on these. They don't expect that they've done it in a day. So you're never going to get hired from just a portfolio piece like that. If you've done a comic, people take it more seriously because they know that you had to do it. You had to do it by a certain date. I don't know why I pointed my wrist for that, because that's time, not months. But there's other people waiting for you, the editors are needed. Like, you've shown that you can do the job. With things like sample pages, I think that I suspect, this is just me, that editors are just like, I don't believe this, no matter how good it is. Because you've no idea if you give them a script, will it be of that quality. But work that's actually been published is a much better guess. So there's nothing wrong with sample pages, but I definitely think it's better to do a project like a short story for an anthology or a one-shot. That's why Hero Killers was so good for me, because I did to do a 30-page story, and I'd done some short stories, but a 30-page one-shot. I had to start, finish by a certain date, so it could be lettered, so it could be published, and then I had a finished comic. It was all me, and it kind of went on from there. Samples, if you're not able to do a page, if it's taking you 3 days to do a page, then you're spending too long on it. And if you're going back and over it again and again and again, dump it and just start something new, because it's just a waste of time. Trying to fix, it's like trying to save a dying patient. You can cut off this artery and do this and do that, but they're just going to die on the table. Best to kill the patient. This is a terrible analogy. What's with the murder subplot to this? But sometimes it's better to just go. This is not going to work, and just start something new. And you'll find that the mistakes you're making there aren't a problem anymore, because you're too inside it. Don't George Lucas something. Don't go back and try redo it, because I don't think it worked out too well.
So how do you know for yourself when you're done? Or whatever. And it's like, okay, yeah.
That's a really good question, and I can't answer it, if I'm being honest with you. I think you just know. We'll put it this way. Some people will go back and they'll keep working on it, keep working on it. I think those people know that they should stop, but they just can't. And that's the key. There's like a gut. With a lot of this stuff, with a lot of drawing, a lot of it's going on your gut. Is this a good pose? And you can rationalize it in your head to go, yeah, it's a good pose. Look, it's perfectly proportioned and it's in front of this. Yeah, it's good. But there's like a little, like in your gut, it's not. But you don't say it, because then other people are going to know. So you just keep going. You kind of intellectualize it too much. And I've learned over the years to trust my gut. If I was doing a drawing and I wasn't happy with it, but I'd still try to make it work, I just listen to my gut and I'm like, yeah, it's not working. But you got to train that so I can't answer that for anybody, but I think if anybody else is really honest with themselves, they'll know.
When you work on Injection,
Yes.
it's an ongoing series, and after you work with Warren and Moon Knight, how much creative say you have in the story itself?
Not really any, to be honest, but like that's fine, because it's Warren Ellis, so like I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen in that book.
Oh, really?
I haven't a clue. Like, he sent me reference for this kind of bubble underwater craft that's going to be the next volume, was like, all right, I'll save that on my computer. But he told me he likes me to be the first audience, so he knows when he hands it to me, I'm the first person that reads that, and my reaction is
Do you give me
pure.
any feedbacks after you read the
Sure I do, yeah. I'm like, yeah, you know, Warren, why don't you do this bit? No, I don't. Like, I'll tell him I like it, because to be honest,
Smile and nod.
yeah, well, no, but I mean, I've never had to go like, no, this isn't good enough, Warren Ellis. I've always liked the scripts. The only feedback I'd ever have for him is really like, oh, I gotta draw that, because there'll be stuff that's very challenging sometimes. But no, I don't offer feedback. And if I was honest, I wouldn't really want somebody. Oh, that's not true. I'm working with somebody at the moment who is giving me feedback, and I don't like this. But like, I trust Warren. He knows what he's doing. He's been doing this. Like, I read his stuff when I was a kid. He knows what he's doing. And he also doesn't give me feedback in the way, like, he doesn't. Like, I'll tell him what I like, but there isn't anything I don't like, except like stupid reasons, like that's going to take me 2 days to draw. But that's like, I told him I don't like drawing like clean technology. So whenever in the script he writes some kind of device that is clean and tech, he'll always go, look, I'm sorry about this, Declan, but yada yada yada. Now I told him I don't like it, but I'm fine to draw it because it's what's important to the story. So even though he knows I don't like it, he's still going to put it in there if it's needed, and I'm still going to draw it if it's needed. You know, I'm not sure if that's true.
Did he ever tell you to redraw something?
No.
Never?
No, it's never.
Never like, oh, this is crap.
No, like when we were starting. You know what? Actually, yeah. When we were starting Injection, I had a lot of was doing the character designs, and he mentioned that Robin Morrill was kind of like a Doctor Who type character. So, and he mentioned Tom Baker. And I'm sure he did at one stage. So I drew, like, basically a very Tom Baker version of Robin Morrill, because I thought that's what he's looking for. Because I'm Irish, I don't give a crap about Doctor Who. I don't like any of that British crap. Well, I guess that's fair, but I'm not into it like Warren is. So I just literally went with like, he's just like a young, sexy Tom Baker, like, you know, with the scarf and the silly hat. And he's like, nah, that's not what I was. So there was a little back and forth there, but I didn't argue with him, going like, no, that's what I want to draw, because I told him enough things that I like to draw, and he's given me enough things I like to draw. And if he'll give me things that are outside my comfort zone, and I could tell him like, I don't want to draw that, but if I just like suck it up and take the time to learn, I'll come out the other end a better artist.
Hi,
Hey.
thank you very much for coming.
Oh, thank you for coming. They
I
brought me over here. It's got to be productive.
I have like 2 questions.
Sure.
One, how do you, like, when you hear a story that someone pitches to you, how do you know that you're interested in it and you want to do it?
I'm not. Like, if you told me I have an idea for a story and you start telling me, this is what I start doing. What did he say? Oh crap! I didn't hear the first bit. Just keep looking at him. Smile. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I'm way lost now. I don't remember what he said. I just hope this conversation ends quickly. I can't retain information like that if you tell me your idea. I feel bad because I know a lot of writers who they're excited and they want to tell you their idea, but my brain doesn't work like that. I need you to write it down so I can read it and I can kind of like have a cup of tea and just kind of think about it. Now, I don't think maybe you didn't mean literally tell me the idea.
Yeah,
but
how do you know when like you hear or read a story that like grabs you and you want to go for it?
It's kind of tough. Sometimes you just know, you know. Like, I'm not the strictest of critics or anything, but like, there was a story there in the last, just to be as vague as I can. There's a story that I was doing that I liked the beginning of it, and then I didn't like the rest of it. But I'd already signed on, so I just did. I had to find things I liked about it to do. I've been pretty lucky though that most things I've ended up doing I have liked. There's definitely things I've been sent. It's tough. You just kind of figure like. Sorry, I'm answering this properly. I think there's times where you just click with stuff, and times where you don't, and it's generally emotional stuff. If something doesn't make me feel something, then I'm not really that interested. Like Deadpool, I was not interested in Deadpool at all. I couldn't have given a toss. I wasn't into the character, like the fan, some of the readers can be a bit loopy. But I read the story, and the story, I don't know if you've read the Deadpool story I drew, but it has a very intense emotional ending, and it made me care about the character. So then when I started the gig, I was way more personally invested. I think that's it. I just need a reason to. Here's the story. So I met a guy one time, and he said he had 2 ideas for a comic. One was a big sci-fi thing, where he had figured out how technology worked, how humans interacted with technology. There's all this really, really technical thing. I was like, okay, that kind of sounds cool. And so what's your other idea? And he said, a girl wakes up in a desert on her own. Like that I'm interested in, because I don't know who she is. How did she get there? What's she gonna do? I'm worried about her. Like I instantly cared about what happens to this character. And the other story, couldn't have cared less. Even though I love sci-fi, but the technology and stuff, that's not a story. So I think that's a good litmus test for what I like. I need a reason to care, and I need to be excited by that. And an idea itself isn't necessarily a good idea.
And the second question
sorry.
I have
Sure.
is as a creator, either as a writer or an artist, how do you make sure that you keep hitting those dramatic beats while doing the pages, while writing them, making sure that your audience is engaged, that the characters are fully
Well,
interactive?
as an artist, it's easier because the writers pretty much figure that out. As a writer, I'm trying to figure that out. I think I've had enough experience with story as an artist that it's informed my work as a writer. So if I was starting out as a writer, I would just need to write stuff to figure out, same as what I was saying about drawing, do it bad before you do it good. There's a quote, do it bad before you do it good. So you need to experiment to know, when it's good to close, when is it good to is it better to say your grandmother's dead? Is it better to zoom right in on that moment, or is it better to zoom right out where they're in the corridor? That's really a taste thing, and you'll develop your taste from experimenting with those things. And I feel like I've got my taste in story from working with writers that I like, and I've learned from all of those. Brian Wood, Jeff Parker, Warren. I've really sucked all that in over the years, and I think that's definitely helped me. But I can't really advise you to be an illustrator for 10 years and then you'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
קודם כל, 2 שאלות. דבר ראשון, אם הוא הכיר את סטנלי, ואם כן, איך היה לנו?
Sorry, that's.
That's okay.
Yes, if you knew Stanley, and I was like,
No, I know.
אוקיי. ודבר שני, רציתי להגיד שהתחלתי לקרוא את זה קצת בחוץ, ואני ממש אהבתי את זה, ורציתי לשאול מתי הוא יוכל לחתום, כי אני עוד כמה דקות צריך לדעת.
רק אין לנו זמן כרגע. No, he said that he really liked it.
Oh, thank you.
יש אופציה לשמור את זה 10
תשאיר את זה בחנות מחר. אני אדאג לזה.
לא, ואני יבוא שפעם הבאה שאני
אני אדאג לזה.
טוב, וביי ביי. נורא נהניתי.
Oh.
Hi there. Couple of questions. I'd like to know, can you describe maybe your environment, how you're working, the studio, if you have a studio, or
Sure.
a special room, or if you're collecting art pieces from other artists, would you like, or something? If you need
Yes.
inspiration, statues and everything, like.
Silk curtains, candles.
Yeah.
Nude portraits of myself. No,
What's
it's,
more for you?
But so I rent a studio. I have an apartment in Dublin, and I made one of the big rooms a studio space, and I share it with a couple of animators. My space is desk, drawing board, computer, scanner, a lot of comics, like bought stack of comics I bought that I have to read yet. Graphic novels that I got in Italy that I haven't had a proper look yet. You know, pencils, pens. I'm not the most organized. But I've got a couple of nice prints. A Matt Taylor print from Brick, a movie, a Ryan Johnson movie. I've got some good art on the walls. And
Yeah,
stuff, but,
no collectibles, maybe.
Sorry?
Collectibles,
I've got some of the Batman.
black and white.
Yeah, I've got 3 of those, and I've got the Batman animated series, guys,
Yeah.
and I have a lot of Star Trek ships scattered around the place.
Cool.
Problem is, like, I need to remind myself to stop and tidy up now and then, because I could take stuff for reference and leave it down, and then put something else down and something else down, and I end up losing track of where everything is. So I need to do spring cleaning every time I finish a project to kind of, you know, if I'm working on a certain character, I might have to keep the books at hand and then have to put them away. But also have things like I've got this kind of wire frame that I use. I hang off a lamp for I'll do like drawing streams sometimes.
Oh, cool.
And I have a really good chair because that's really important. I spent a lot of money on a good chair after spending 2 years drawing in a terrible like kitchen chair.
Are you working on the table with inclination or
No,
flat?
flat table, but I have a drawing board that has this kind of it has kind of a swing arm, so you can lift it up at different degrees. So that's tilted, but the computer is, yeah. I don't tilt the desk because the computer will go, you know. But the computer's there for reference, for music, for playing TV shows when I draw, whatever.
Any art stuff from well-known artist or something like this?
No, I have
What
a
you
lot
like
of art,
or-
but it's not on the wall. It's all.
Portfolios?
It's all. I have Zafino. I have Tommy Lee Edwards. I have J.P. Leon. I have a cell from The Simpsons. I've got like a lot of stuff, but it's all in a cupboard where nobody can see it.
Cool.
Do you
Thank you.
think digitally at all, or is
No,
it?
I do. I color my covers in Photoshop, and also I have a little shelf thing where I'll have like some drawing things like templates to draw from. I have a fake Desert Eagle gun that because whenever you're it's for reference. I also have like a fake AK-47, but like it's okay in Ireland. Nobody expects it real because we don't have any guns. But it is weird sometimes. Like if I've ever brought like somebody new to the apartment, what's that about? So I have little reference things that are handy. But I also have like a Wacom tablet there. I try to put that away because I only use it. I only use it for like 1 week out of the month.
So, conflict, in my opinion, it can be not so reader friendly. I mean, there's a reason people draw them. Now, when you read a script, what makes you excited about drawing stuff? And how do you try as a writer to give your artist that experience?
That's a good question. From an artist's point of view, it does depend because it depends if the story is action, if it's emotional. Sometimes it's a line of dialogue, especially it happens with Warren all the time. A line of dialogue, you're like, oh, that's great. Yeah, it happens in Moonlight a lot. There's a lot of those characters, he just writes them so well, where it's just a very nothing scene, or seems nothing, and then he ends it on a line, you're like, ah, that's class. As a writer, that's really tough. Like, I'm like, here's the line, you write the line, you're like, that's awful. But I think it's just, I know it's weird as an artist. There's something visual, anything visual. So if somebody's fallen into the ocean and you can draw a big imposing ocean, if it's an action scene, and sometimes not an action scene, sometimes it's something very, very, I don't know, I don't even answer your question right, to be honest. If there's enough engagement in the story, you will find something that gets you. From a writing point of view, I think it's for me. It's a lot of it's about pacing. If someone fights on every single page, that's boring. If someone's talking on every single page, that's boring. But if nobody does anything and says nothing for 7 pages, when when you get to page 8, that's exciting. So it depends on what I can get into a story that will have enough moments of gravitas so that the artist can make a decision about what they're drawing. Because when I'm writing, I do imagine it in my head. I don't do thumbnails, but I do imagine what it looks like. I worked with Mike Henderson. It was really weird because there were some panels or pages that were nothing like I was like. He did like a 7-panel or 6-page grid, but I was thinking something completely different. But then there was another page where he laid it out exactly like what was in my head, and that's exciting from a writing point of view when you see both, like not just when it matches what I thought, but when it's different, and you're because you're always trying to understand what the other person's doing or experiment with what the other person's doing. So it's leaving enough seeds for somebody else to pick up and do something with, I think. And I guess as the artist, it's when you do get those seeds, really letting them grow. I hope that does.
Do you ever, when writing a script, go, let's say, page 1, panel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Yeah.
and then page 7, big action scene, cars crashing at the end, and the artist can do whatever they want. Or do you
No.
always keep it the same?
I've always been writing it the same so far. I'm about to work on something with an artist who's really, he's great. Or she, is he. But,
It's gonna be a bleeding pool.
yeah.
Working with someone
with
on
a male,
something.
possibly female artist. But he, the conversation we're having is, because like I said, I like to have ideas and stuff. The conversation we're having is he wants to do everything, so he doesn't want any input from me other than story, which is weird for me because I'm used to kind of just being not telling him what to do, but being more engaged. So I'm trying to find a way by studying a lot of his work to see the moments where he really comes in and does something. And I've talked to him and I said, as long as we get to the point where I want to story-wise, I don't really care about how we get there. Up till now, I have cared about how we get there. I've had it in my mind, and I don't mind it waving a little bit. So with this project, I'm going to have to learn to step back more. So I'm going to write it a lot looser. I'm going to write it for scene, page 2 and 3. This is the scene, and this is the dialogue, and letting him do it because it's been very clear to me that he really, really wants to just go wild, and he's an exceptional visual storyteller. So there's no point in me telling him this needs to be all letterbox panels, this needs to be X, Y, Z. There's no point. I want him to feel excited and rewarded. So for me, it's I need to find enough. I need to build a house that he can play in, but not tell him what's in the room. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas in other cases, I'll build a house and I'll tell them what the furniture is, but it's up to them where the furniture goes. If that makes sense. I literally just came up with that right now. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Another question. Can we speak a little bit about the business side of things? Like, if we can really make a living drawing comic books, not to enter in the details of the page rate or something like this, but I see you're putting a lot of variants as well, and variants is maybe more for the exposure, but you don't really need it because you're well known already. So it's something you have to work to work things out, like make the comics page, and also to combine if it's variants or commission or anything, just to make a standard kind of living, or it's just bonus.
It's a very good question. I can give you my tax form.
No, I don't really need it, but
it's I survived on $100 a page when I was doing 28 days later.
Can I ask
Sure.
another thing? Do you have a family or something, children or
No,
anything?
I'm going to die alone.
Still home.
Well, thanks for bringing that up. No, so I've been when I started in comics I was single, and at the moment I am single. So I don't have a family, I don't have any dependents. and I'm doing well. I certainly can't complain. I
Yeah,
have,
sure.
but I have friends who don't make as much as me, who do have families, but they have maybe very successful wives. So, their wives are like, well, if you're happy and you're making money, that's all that matters. It's actually like a really great feminist thing that, like, there are women who make more than their husbands, but want their husbands to be happy making money. So as long as everybody's happy, then everybody's happy. But for me, no. So if you know anybody, who's not seeing anybody right now. So I survived on $100 a page in Dublin City, which isn't cheap. And I got by, and I was able to save a bit of money for conventions. And I thought, this is okay. I can get by on this. But then I've been very lucky that I've made more. I started working for Marvel, which is a much higher page rate, and I've been working there consistently for like nearly 9 years now. Variants aren't more money, but covers are more money, and they're pretty handy because you just spend about a day and a half, and you get paid. So they're great. I would say if I have a criticism of myself, other than being too awesome, it would be I'm doing too many covers probably. But I'm working on a book, and I'm a little behind on it, but it's not going to be out for a while. So between now and then, I'm basically invisible. And I think it's tough for artists right now because if you're not seen to be doing stuff, people assume that you're not getting any work.
I don't think it's so true nowadays because of the internet and everything. Everyone's following everyone. So
Yeah,
if you're
but-
interested in this domain as you're following
I
the
mean,
people,
maybe
you know what's happening.
but I might be wrong, but I do think if you don't...
Oh, you know more than me.
If you're not releasing something, though, people forget about you because there's so much competition.
Yeah, but maybe you're making also like some kind of an attempt of it. It's like the people they're gonna wait for your next step.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully.
Like
but-
building a momentum.
But if you're starting out, especially...
No, I'm speaking about you. No.
About AUB now?
Yeah, now.
Well, so for now, yeah, I mean, I don't need to do variant covers, but, they can be, it's short-term satisfaction, not long-term
Yeah.
satisfaction. Long-term satisfaction is making sure that I'm doing storytelling pages. Because, also to be frank, you don't make
My name is
royalties on
Frank.
covers.
My name is Frank.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
All right, Frank, to be frank, to be you.
I'm originally from France.
Oh, okay.
I moved here.
Okay. Well, you don't make royalties on covers. You do make royalties on pages.
No.
So twice a year, I get paid by Marvel or DC or Image royalties on whatever books have sold over the years. You don't make royalties on
Yeah, sure.
you don't make royalties on commissions, and you don't make royalties on covers. So I do think there's a lot of artists out there who do commissions, and that's great because you make money fast, but it's not long-term money. It's good to be investing in your future.
What I heard is like even established artists, they completely turned off the sequentials just and move to doing commission because it's much more money.
I think it's a bad
and
idea.
they have like a big flu.
I think what happens is I've seen it happen to some
Like I
artists.
know Barry Kitson or
Kitson, yeah.
Barry Kitson. I think he moved just on commission stuff. Mostly.
Yeah, but
No,
I'd
just
say
Scott Campbell is really.
everyone's different,
Yeah.
So I can't speak for Barry, but like I know I get bummed out if I'm not telling a story.
Yeah.
So I'll do stuff that's fun, like Banshee, I'll do this and that. It's fun, it's entertaining, and I make money, cool. But if I'm not telling a story over a period of time, I personally get bummed out. I get frustrated, and I'm like, oh, what's wrong with me? I'm getting really annoyed, and I realize it's because I'm not telling the story. So I think the important thing is things like commissions, covers, all that other stuff. I think personally, it's better to have it on the side. Like I actually don't like doing commissions, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
But like I'll do them. Like I did them for coming here because this is my first time in this part of the world. I'll do them for some shows to make sure I can cover my expenses. But when I'm there, I'm just going drinking and meeting friends and stuff. If the side gig becomes the main gig, I think that's dangerous because people will. Also, you can flood the market. I think you can flood the market with your work as well. So if you're doing commissions for everybody, then everybody has like a Declan Shalvey drawing. Nobody needs one anymore. Nobody asks anymore, and then you've turned down work because you're doing
No, it really sounds like the last couple of years people are getting crazy about commission. And you have a lot of reps everywhere. I was in Orlando last month, and it's like the artist alley. You have like maybe 2 big reps. They're holding everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone, even
Yeah,
Capolo.
I have a rep, but I know they're bigger. And I'd say what I don't like about those is that, again, there's a lot of things like signing for signatures or
Yeah.
paying for signatures, and I'm having kids come up to me at my table going, "How much to get a signature?" Like, it's like I don't want a kid to expect to pay for a signature. They bought the book, I'll sign the book. Sketches are different, and that's why I try. The less I do, the better. Because when I'm at a convention, I'm not there to make money. I'm there to have fun and talk to people who buy my stuff. Again, it's short term, long term. I can draw for 5 people in a day, maybe if I do commissions, and 5 people are happy, and that's great. But then there's maybe 30 people who've bought my book, who I didn't sign their book because I was busy drawing. I personally think it's better to talk to those 30 people, have a conversation like we're having right now, and then they're more likely to buy my next book because I was nice to them and we had a nice conversation, rather than a drawing which, as far as I know, could just be going to a collector and being sold on to somebody else. You know, I try and make sure if it's a drawing, it's for somebody who actually supports my work, because when I'm 40, which is in 3 years, when I'm 50, 60 or whatever, I want people to be buying my stories, because that's what, that's invested in me properly. I won't be able to draw as much when I'm 70 or whatever.
Thank you.
No worries.
You again.
Did you ever wanted to write a character, but you never got the chance, or the
Yeah.
company never letted you?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the main thing. The company needs to let you. Banshee, I wanted to write a Banshee story, and that was turned down. I wanted to do a Thor story, that was turned down. I want to do Daredevil someday. I'd love to do Batman too. So there's definitely.
Aren't you taking the part in the All-Star Batman?
Yeah, I did that I drew that a few years ago, but it's.
You didn't write.
I didn't write it. Yeah, I drew it.
Okay, yeah.
Is there,
Yes, but,
continuing his question, is there still someone that you want to work with, like really like a holy grailish?
I'd love to do something with Garth Ennis someday. Yeah, like I'd love to do a war story or something with Garth Ennis, but I hear he's very particular about all of the details, all the machinery and stuff like that. But that's fine, because if he gets the reference, fine. And so that's something I'd love to do. I'd love to do a war story with Garth Ennis, or even a story about an Irish-centric story. That'd be kind of cool. Like something about the North, or I think it's possible. I'd love to do something with Ed Brubaker as well. So I've loved his stuff for years. Jason Aaron. I did a short story with Jason Aaron. Maybe something longer, but in general, there's not a lot of writers. Not that there aren't good writers. It's just there's writers who I've looked up to that I'd love to work with. I'd love to do something else with Warren as well, actually. And there's other writers now who are doing great stuff, but generally, I kind of want to just do my own stuff.
And is there any artist that you really want to write for?
Well, Simone is one. I'd love to do something with him. There's a guy called Seth Jamoose. I think is really great. It depends day to day, But also, I see what they're doing. I'm like, well, you should work with somebody bigger than me. I'm not, But I'm lucky that there are some artists who are fans of my work and would like to do something with me because they're fans of my work, of my drawing. They're like, but you don't know if I'm any good at writing. And they're like, no, it's fine. I just really like your work. So I'm like, oh, okay. But it depends. There's so many great people out there. We're actually spoiled for choice right now.
Any chance you? Sorry.
You talked earlier about your Moon Knight redesign.
Yeah.
Which is great, by the way.
Thank you.
You get to redesign a character.
Sure.
Is it stressful? Because some of them have that iconic look, and then
Yeah, it depends. Sorry.
Connecting to my question.
Sure.
Is there a certain character you want to redesign?
No, not really.
Batman.
Yeah,
That's
that
horrible.
It depends. I tend to actually redesign most things that I work on. So Nick Fury, I redesigned him. Duke in Batman, I designed him. I redesigned some of the, not the Thunderbolts, but a boom, like I was telling you earlier, a Boomerang in Spider-Man. That's my design. I redesigned him. Moon Knight I did redesigns for. I like having a visual switch for when I do something. But there's nobody. Oh, okay, that's not true. X-Men. I'd love to design a team of X-Men and have a uniform look. I mean, they generally do, which I like, but have a distinct visual look for the team that changes character to character. That's the dream for me, is to do like maybe like an X-Men project where I, get to do everything. But is it intimidating? So far, no. Nobody cares about Boomerang, so that's part of the character. Nobody cares about it. Sorry. Yeah. But Moon Knight's different because the whole point was to do something different, which we did, and I'm glad we did that. Nick Fury was a case of I made it a story point. For me, I feel like I kind of sink my teeth into the character more if I get to kind of do my take on them.
Thank you. So with the redesign of Moon Knight, we spoke about it earlier. You told me that basically Warren gave you a free hand designing the Khonshu.
The Khonshu one was fairly broad. Like it was Egyptian bird skull face. Cool.
Did Marvel have any say in the designs?
No. Well, I mean, they would say it's their character, but it made it very clear that it was made very clear at the beginning, whatever Warren wanted was fine. And Warren made it very clear whatever I wanted was what he wanted. I think there was one. I think the suit version had already been established in Secret Avengers, so I just did my own tweak on that. The superhero costume was 100% me, and the Khonshu version was like, a percentage. It was like Warren's idea, but I was kind of let to play around with it. I made it. I think I went more Egyptian than probably what was suggested in the end.
Hey, going back a little bit, because most of the questions I had were answered.
Okay.
How does one? How's best to make the link from drawing poses, characters, and single pieces to a page or to a comic?
Well, it's something you have to do, because if you're drawing single images, that's not comics. They're not telling a story. So it's finding a story. I didn't have the confidence to write one for myself, so I reached out to somebody, a friend of mine one time, and he wrote a story, and I drew that, and then I did more and more and more of that to kind of to start it. But you need a story, and but like, is there like a comics like community here? Is there a small press?
There's a small one, yeah, but so small.
Yeah. Does anybody here want to write comics? Okay. Well, talk to him. See if he'll-
Let him write and you draw.
Yeah, but just for a short for a short.
She's coloring.
So do you want?
I'm coloring a book right now.
I know. Are you?
Crayons or?
I don't know. We're
Do
still
you want to draw?
I'm
Do you want to draw as well?
Yeah, I want to draw.
Okay, so maybe start with, if you can you draw? Okay, so he can't draw. You can. I think. So start.
I'm not sure that I can, but
Well, you're young. You have all the time in the world. These old guys, no. I would start with that. I would just a short story, draw it. You realise that he probably won't do a good job because he's only starting out. But you're going to make mistakes, and he can not necessarily you, but whoever you end up doing it with. They'll learn where maybe they made mistakes if it doesn't quite work, and you learn where you made mistakes, and then you both end up being better after
Yeah,
these
but I mean, like, making a single piece is like coming out
it can't just out and
Like you have the image.
Yeah, I have the image, I draw it.
Okay.
Like drawing a page is intimidating. It's even if I have a story.
It's not, because you take the page,
Yeah.
page is intimidating. Just draw a line through it, and then all of a sudden it's not a page. It's 2 panels, or it's 4 panels, or it's. So it's a matter of think of each panel as a single illustration initially, and then think of